Welcome back to another episode of the DailyFlip podcast. I'm your host, Alex, and today we're going to be flipping through a story talking about the new H-1B visa. Now, for those who are not initiated, this is a visa that's normally given for highly skilled workers. It was a big contention point in the Republican Party during the last presidential election, and now Trump has decided to restructure it a bit. So we're going to go through it. We're also going to end today with our daily delight, story to leave you feeling positive and ready to take on the day. Now, that's enough rambling from me. Let's jump into our daily debate. So if the United States was to cancel its H-1B visa program, the main source of external, highly valuable, and external being someone from a different country, highly valuable immigrants, how do you think the economy would change? I want it really top level. And throw me some hypotheticals. Maybe you got a wild idea. Maybe you don't think it would change at all. I want to know because I have opinions, but I have gauged others, and I'm even more interested in gauging more people's. So, with that said, let's jump into the article. This one comes from our friends over at the Daily Wire. The headline reads, U.S. H-1B visa fee will not apply to existing holders, the White House says. Now, for everybody who hasn't been caught up, let me get you there. Sorry to assume that you know what we're talking about. So the H-1B visa is something that most people are not fans of, whether you're on the conservative right, whether you're on the left. On the left, it's basically argued that it is a employer-sponsored visa that traps people into staying at these large companies, because without their jobs at these companies, without putting up with these terrible conditions, without putting up with the possibility of having lower salaries and wages, these individuals do not have the opportunity to stay in the United States, fight for citizenship, possibly marry a U.S. citizen, so on and so forth. And on the right, they argue this is an excuse for big tech companies and other companies across the United States that have highly skilled jobs to not hire American and to actually exploit the fact that the U.S. government has put something on the books that allows them to get cheap labor somewhere else. Now, both of those arguments talk about cheap labor. And let's be clear, H-1B visas, the people that get them are not necessarily cheap, though for someone of the requisite skill set in the United States, it was presumed that they would be cheaper, and the evidence seems to bear that out. So you can see why it is so contentious. At the core of this is the current rights movement to make America have jobs again, essentially, if I'm to borrow some of their phraseology and interpret it as my own. And you can see at the root of this here that for the left, it goes to how we need a better immigration system, and also we need to treat all people, no matter if they are citizens of this United States, more fairly, and they feel like this is a chance for exploitation. Both of these go to their prerequisite values that they have that go beyond simply the argument of immigration. And that's why this one's so heated. But the White House decided to go with a interesting solution here. And I say interesting because it does what they want it to do to possibly appease their base, while also creating some mitigating factors and not fully eliminating it, basically folding in the position of the tech right, the tech bros that came along with Donald Trump, who have a serious foothold in the White House. David Sachs is among them, but there are plenty of other advisors that also lean that direction, who want to keep these visas going because they have so many employees that are on them, and it is beneficial to them to continually bring in new talent from other places. Not to say that America doesn't have talent, but to bring in the best upon the best. So what was the White House actual solution here? And you may have heard a little bit of rumblings about it because some people were getting frustrated. So I'll read the very first paragraph. Quote, the new $100,000 fee for H-1B visa in the United States that goes in effect on Sunday will be levied per petition and will not be applied to existing holders of valid visas re-entering the country, the White House said on Saturday. Levitt said on X that the H-1B visa holders can leave and re-enter the country to the same extent as they normally would, and that the new fee would only apply in the next H-1B lottery round and not a current visa holder or renewal, end quote. So that fee, $100,000 in order to get the visa. Now, you may have to take out a loan in order to get it. You may be using your savings. It may increase the overall cost of getting to the United States and being a highly skilled worker. Think in the way that most of these highly skilled workers probably have degrees here from the United States or from their home countries. And this is a balancing mechanism in my mind. This is the Republicans' way of saying, okay, hey, we understand that many people don't like that these visas are being used to basically bring in foreign labor who is taking the position of the United States. And these tech companies are taking advantage of this. And we want to balance the scales. So a lot of people would say just ban them. Don't allow these people to come into the country. Don't allow them to take these jobs. But they need to find a path that would satisfy the tech right as well, considering they're a large part of the movement at this point, or at least this administration. I wouldn't say that their values necessarily fully align with the values of the party writ large. And guess what? By tacking $100,000 on there now, you're saying, okay, hey, it's going to be more expensive for these individuals to come to the United States. Therefore, the value proposition on their side of things, the value proposition for them is that, okay, these tech companies are going to have to offer me more money in order to incentivize me to come to the United States, because I have to pay off this giant loan that I got for college, as well as this giant loan that I got in order to get my visa to enter the country. And for the Americans, it seems to satisfy the emotional level, which is, okay, hey, they actually have to pay something to get into our country. They have to invest in America. They have to pay us in order to get in, which I think is more of an emotional argument than a logical argument. And the other logical argument is, if their costs are going to increase, that means that our costs don't have to continue to increase, and we don't have to keep cutting our value as much, because there's a possibility of getting better jobs at higher rates, because there's no longer that baseline competition that is so cheap. I think it's a interesting way to approach this, rather than outright banning the use of H-1B visas, or fully endorsing it, or stapling green cards onto certificates, as Donald Trump once implied he would on one of the Tech Bro podcasts. This is absolutely fascinating, and I think it's a solution that they're trying to implement. But $100,000, if you were to really look at it, some of these tech jobs, as they go higher up in salary, they're $100,000 is not that much. That could be recovered within a couple of years. So I would say up to 6 or 10. And if the idea is to not only bring these workers here to improve our technology in order to make innovation more likely, to bring the greatest minds here, we don't want to simply just create something that brings them here temporarily. We want them to come for a long time, and they want them to stay. Now, we're not going to forcibly do anything where they become a citizen, where they become a member of the republic. But the question begs, once they've paid this off, they've paid off this debt in order to get this, and they've gotten the knowledge, because guess what? There's a lot of value here besides monetary value. There's also intellectual value. Imagine someone from India comes to a cutting-edge biomedical company, and then after their 10 years, they decide to go back to India, and they exploit the knowledge that they gained here in order to build out those companies there, and the cheaper infrastructure and the cheaper manufacturing in countries that surround India, which we have access to, but it's further away. And they're able to rocket into stardom. They're able to build a beautiful company from the ground up. And let's be clear, transfer of knowledge is actually good for the entire world. I'm not going to sit here and pretend as though we need to protect all of our knowledge and we need to silo it on a free market level. It is beneficial to everybody when this gentleman who I'm mentioning in this hypothetical example goes back to India and he pushes for these innovations. He comes up with his own. There's knowledge sharing in between them. Then there's competition in that marketplace. It pushes both of these companies to do better, to make better products. But when it comes to asking the question of if we're giving them an investment, if we are putting an investment in them, it's similar to how lots of states do colleges here in the United States, which is you can get state sponsorship, you can get grants from the state if you stay in state and you try to do jobs within the state. You try to cultivate the knowledge. Louisiana has a huge problem with this. When I had talked to many students in Lafayette, in one of their larger universities, I asked, oh, hey, what you guys doing after college? And they said, oh, yeah, I got scholarships in order to come here, and I'm going to go to Texas. The state is literally funding the draining of its brain. And in this case, is that the same thing that would be happening here? Are we funding these people to learn and to gain understanding and to practice with the best, and then only to see them go back to a different country? So adding the financial barriers, adding that extra $100,000 doesn't seem like a terrible solution to this, but I wonder how it'll be in the future. I wonder what will change. I wonder what will have to change. Maybe nothing will. Maybe we'll just open the doors and say H-1Bs for every single person that goes to school here, and that will be enough of an investment cost. But I'm fascinated to see how it plays out. So with that said, let's jump into our daily delight. This one comes from our friend at Dog Time. Video shows Golden Retriever has a major attitude when asked to go home after a walk. And yeah, this guy's a little bit sassy. He's pushing back. He's trying to imply, no, you can't, no, you can't make me do that. And honestly, it's something that will hopefully put a little smile on your face. So with all that said, if you want to listen to the podcast, you can listen to it on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Podvine, as well as you can find us at the Twitter handle at Your Daily Flip, where I post links to these episodes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the 6 and 6 podcast, which is 6 stories from around the world in 6 minutes or less, on Tuesday and Thursday. So with all that said, there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe. Don't die.